To begin, first pick which principle you want to represent in your collage. Next, check out the collage techniques. There's two different ones that you're going to use. So tearing and cutting paper and then fragments. Now, one of the most important parts is that you are choosing the colors by your specific hour. So first hour, you can see your red, pink, and orange. Make sure that you pay attention to these. I will leave them up for you to keep referring back to. So now I'm going to show you the two separate collage techniques that you're going to use. Fragments is the first technique I will show you. Fragments, that means that you're kind of breaking up one singular image from either a magazine, or I have a coloring book here, and I'm going to just kind of split everything up into fragments. So I'll show you an example of how to use the fragments technique. So the one I'm going to use, my principle, I will choose emphasis. I'm going to use the fragmenting technique, and then I'm just going to go for the red, pink, and orange colors, and I don't have to use all of them. So to start, I have my piece of paper that I'm going to glue everything down on, scissors, my original image that I'm going to fragment, and then some glue. Probably use some color pencils, seeing as though this is only a black and white image, which is kind of boring. So I could really cut this out however I want to, or fragment it, but I could do squares. I think I'm going to cut this eyeball out and then use my eyeball as a tracer. Now I can begin fragmenting by using this as a tracer. I'm just kind of choosing areas that seem like they'd be a little more visually interesting and kind of varying in pattern. Now that I have them all cut out, I can start arranging them on my paper so it can be orderly, or maybe not orderly at all. But just remember that I chose emphasis, so I need to figure out how I'm going to show emphasis in my collage. Again, emphasis means that you're drawing attention to one area of the artwork. Also, don't forget that I chose red, pink, and orange for first hour. So those are the only colors that I can use in my collage. So as I was looking through a magazine, because again, this is a mixed media sort of thing, I found my exact colors. So there's pink, red, and then orange as well. So I'm going to take one of my little shapes and trace that little section on the magazine. So I traced it, and now I can cut it out with my scissors. Just a reminder that everybody's collage is going to be completely different than everyone else's. This is just a sample. You do not have to do it like this. So I created my area of emphasis, and again, you can see I haven't glued anything down because I'm not positive I want it like this. Looking at it right now, it looks kind of boring. So I'm going to figure out some way to add more interesting elements to this. Maybe I want to draw to emphasize this area even more. Or I could start clustering to show emphasis. This is just some found cardboard in that similar color, just kind of clustering. Or I could honestly combine both. So even though I have a lot of emphasis, I think it's still boring. That's one thing that we don't want, is tons of white space. So I'm going to add just some simple drawings into my collage. These are just some designs I enjoy drawing, so maybe find something that you enjoy drawing. Okay, so I think I'm ready to glue, but I can always add things after I glue. Just remember that this is the fragmenting technique for collage. So the next technique I'm going to show you is tearing and cutting. So I'm going to do a quick example of tearing and cutting that you can do. So I will do another example one where I choose, this is what you're going to do. I'm going to, for example, I'll do balance. And then obviously I'm doing tearing and cutting paper. And then I will go with what 4th hour's colors are, yellow, green, and blue. So I picked balance, and just a reminder that balance is the equal distribution of visual weight in an artwork. And the 3 types, symmetrical, asymmetrical, I'm actually going to go with radial. So the design emerges from a center point. Tearing and cutting is pretty cool because it creates these interesting textures and has a really cool contrast between the cut papers and then the torn papers. So the torn papers you can see you can tell they're really jaggedy compared to the nicely fine cut papers. So for this, I found a bunch of photos that I had cut. There's a lot of greens and blues in them. I got my scissors, I got my second piece of paper, and then I was kind of testing things out. Again, you can use anything. If you have something at your house that you want to bring in, feel free to. I'm using even lined paper. So since I chose radial balance, everything's gonna emerge from the center point. Again, everybody's is gonna look different. Don't copy mine. Come up with your own cool thing. So I found some magazine colors and textures I liked, so I'm just gonna start placing them next to my cut photos. Again, tearing and cutting is all about the contrast between the torn paper against the nicely cut paper or photo or whatever you choose. So I have my radial balance going on, but again, it's missing something. So I think I'm gonna do some hand-drawn things and add them in here somehow. Since I didn't have a lot of yellow, I just kind of drew this pretty quick to get some yellow in my collage. I'm gonna cut this out and find a way to place it on here. So I cut it out, and now I can start playing around with how I want to place it. I'm also going to add some extra little notes of color with some colored pencils directly on the paper. When you are finished, you're going to have 2 different abstract collages, 2 different principles that you'll use, and then 2 different collaging techniques. And then, of course, both collages will be the color that corresponds with your hour. If you run out of time in class and you've already cut up a bunch of paper and you want to save it, you can create a folder. Grab some construction paper and fold it in half. I will put tape out, and then you can tape the bottom edges. Put your first and last name on this piece of paper. Oops. Then you can keep this on the drying rack according to your class. Okay, so go ahead, have fun, make yours different than everybody else's.